Give me the, like in the movies, you gotta give me the action. Action.
Action,
There we
go.
go. Perfect. All right, well, Parks Committee will come to order. We'll note that Alderman Burnett, Alderman Johnson, Alderman Weary are present. Alderman Nicholson is excused. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
Moved. Second.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Did you get the motioners? Burnett, Johnson, okay. C, approval of the minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Burnett, second by Johnson. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Give me like hands flailing if I'm going too fast. D, regular business. Number 1 is request by Alderman Stoyer to report on the status of the site plans, site location, fundraising efforts, and construction schedule for the 4K building project at the Wildlife Sanctuary. Director.
Okay, we do have Mike Reed here, who is going to give a brief presentation on the update, and then we do have a few members of the Friends of the Wildlife Sanctuary here who might want to speak on this also. So I'll just have Mike come up to the podium and give a summary.
Good evening. Hope everyone is well tonight. The construction started on December 17th of this year. They've been working on putting in the foundations. The construction area has been fenced off for public safety reasons. The staff has been informed that construction has started, and they are not to enter that construction area for safety reasons. We're working with DPW to develop some permanent signage to delineate some instructions for visitors, especially the contractor already has signs up denoting the area as a construction site and that there's no access. But we're working with DPW on some additional signage for that, for the traffic flow and visitor, pedestrian traffic and things like that. As I said, they've started with the excavation of the site. They've made good progress with the excavation. They laid in the new road way that replacing that existing service path going down there. We had a 2-day delay in construction due to wetland concerns, but those were, so we brought out the site engineer again, had him restake. Some of the flagging was still already there for wetlands, but we had them restake the wetlands, and there was no issues once they got restaked. It was obvious there was no issues with wetland, and we're well out of it. Right now, they're putting in forms, they're forming up areas, compacting soil, gravel, forming the foundation areas. That will continue this week and next. And then the following week, the week of the 14th, hopefully they'll start pouring some concrete in the foundations. They are also starting to work on the utility hookups. So they're starting to, they just today actually exposed the water line, the existing water line just to the west of the nature center. And they'll be coring in to make that connection to the water line, and they'll be coring in also to make the connection to the sewer. Hopefully that both of those will be done this week. Otherwise, they'll go into next week to get those things completed. That's pretty much where we're at so far. As the foreman told me today, you have a lot of the slow period, and then things will go fast once forms are set and things, and they start pouring concrete. It always things go a little faster. Then you get this slow period where you're doing more prep, and then will be, and then you get sort of a rush of things happening, it seems like. The projected completion date still is next August. So, they would hope to be able to occupy the building by next August.
All right, were there any problems with the site, any delays or?
Just the delay with the, we had one delay with the, wetland issue.
Okay, and that's,
But
that
that,
passed then?
yeah, that's passed. There really wasn't an issue there. Once it got restaked, it was obvious we were out of the wetland.
Good.
And, all the silt screening and everything is in place. So we're all set with that, and construction just keeps moving on. Of course, it's weather dependent. We've had 2 rain days that they haven't been able to work. We thought in January you're gonna get rain days and not be able to work. But otherwise, they're making good progress.
There also was a delay starting off the project. This was before the project kicked off, which was getting the EPA to sign off on the elevations of the building due to, floodway issues. It was just, we had to get confirmation from them that what we were doing was adequate. So that did delay construction a while, but once that was resolved, it moved pretty quickly.
I think one of the items on here too is on the fundraising. I guess, are we complete with that, or?
Well, it's a
Oh, okay.
Friends-funded
You had the
project, so I'll let
construction.
the
Any
Friends
questions
answer
on
that.
construction, gentlemen? No? Thanks, Mike. You're the money guy.
Yeah, well, as you may recall, I've
You could
been
just
before.
state your name and address,
Yeah,
please.
I was going to do that. I've been before the committee before. I'm Dan Spillman, president of the Falls Board. And as you may recall, we have commitments for $3.4 million, a little more than $3.4 million for the project. As of October 15th, our last reporting period where our treasurer has reported, we had about $1.5 million in hand. I would say by now we're probably close to $2 million cash in hand. We've paid Keller Construction their first payment obviously out of that. In 2018, we have commitments of $630,000. In the remaining of the year, 2019, $500,000, 2020, $360,000, and 2021, $225,000, for a little over $3.4 million. Total cost of the building basically right now is at $2.96, $2,960,000. We've had a couple change orders that because of the later start that we hoped, dealing with we had to have some additional concrete. So we have, I think pretty adequate amount of money to handle the project. Loan of $1.25 million from Associated Bank that we will basically need probably in the spring, late spring sometime, April, May, because obviously with the pledges not all coming in, the contractor's not going to say, well, we'll wait to 2021 to get paid. But Associated Bank has been very good. They, I think, feel real comfortable with our pledges and with who the donors are. We have some very large donors and we have a lot of small donors. And if the $1.25 million isn't totally adequate, they're willing to look at, in other words, if there's somebody doesn't come in right on time, Associated Bank is willing to consider upping that. But we want to keep the loan as small as possible because obviously we're paying interest on it. So I think things are going well. Obviously the project was delayed a little bit for a couple of reasons, but I think we're moving forward. Keller is from what we've heard and seen, a very good contractor. They're really very anxious to get this project done. As Mike said, we hope to have it done in August for the fall school year. So we're feeling pretty good. As I said, we've got some major donors on the board who have committed to the project. So we're feeling good. We're glad to get the shovel in the ground and get things going. If you have any questions.
Gentlemen?
Is a group, when I hear that bridge loan, do you have collateral to back that, or is that, do you guys have an endowment, or?
No, we do not. They're basically taking it on who the donors are and where the commitments are. And since the project is, basically 2.9 plus some stuff inside, they feel, loaning 1.25 is not a problem. And since we've got commitments of about 3.4, a little over 3.4, I think and Associated just doesn't loan money, willy-nilly, so they feel pretty comfortable, I think.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't have to sign on. I haven't personally guaranteed it, so not that that would mean anything if I did.
All right, I think that's all we had. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Anybody else here for this item? Anyone else? All right, I don't think we opened the floor, but without objection, we'll close the floor. Okay, that's all right. Any questions for staff on this? Anything else you want to add, Dan?
No, I don't have anything to add at this point.
Motion to receive and place in file.
Motion by Alderman Burnett, second by Alderman Johnson to receive and place in file. Discussion?
Got it.
Okay, that's what I thought. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. It'll go to council next week. Somebody may want an update there, they might not, but it might be worth coming to give the full council an update.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, thanks. You can stay, you don't have to leave. Although I hear there's a nice debate going on, you might want to head over there.
Define nice.
You define it.
To be determined yet.
Interesting.
It wasn't your vote.
That's good. Number 3, consideration with possible action on the approval of $75,000 grant from the fund. I like it when it starts.
And number 2.
Approval of a fund. Oh, 2, okay, darn. I don't like that one. We're gonna skip that one. Request by Alderman Sawyer to look at the feasibility of utilizing He Nisra Park for a fat tire winter bike destination.
Yeah, so this was I did have a chance to speak to Alderman Stoyer prior to this meeting. This was on the request of a constituent who is an enthusiast of fat tire bike riding. And I did speak with the individual today. She was actually here earlier but couldn't stick around, it's late. And we kind of reviewed options and kind of where to take this communication. So it's something that the Parks Department is definitely supportive of. It's a great sport. Right now, we don't promote a specific location for fat bikes within the park system as a dedicated trail. So we're willing to look at that. I know at Baird's Creek, we do have defined trails for mountain bikes, and they can definitely use those trails out there. Out at He Nisra, one thing that we do have to be conscientious of is we do also allow hiking and we allow cross-country skiing in there. And this is through a wooded area that's very hilly, and so the fat tire bikes cannot share a trail with a cross-country ski trail because the two can't share a trail because as soon as you drive over the cross-country ski trail, it ruins the trail for the cross-country skier. So if we do allow this at He Nisra Park, we would have to actually walk the site and delineate, okay, this is cross-country, this is a fat tire bike trail. We haven't done that process yet. We haven't walked the trail system with these user groups yet. There's a possibility we can make it work at He Nisra, but there's also a possibility that it might not work. We might have to pick cross-country ski or fat bike or fat tire bike. We're not sure if we can have the two working together. That being said, they like He Nisra, but they're open to other locations if we can find an alternate location too. As a staff, we kind of thought maybe Colburn Park might be a good spot. We do also do cross-country ski trail there, but we're not limited by a forest. So there's a lot of opportunities that we could groom both trails and have them coincide at the same time with very little conflict. So that's another potential location. They're open to that, this group is, but they prefer He Nisra, but they'll take anything. They just would like to see a location where we can find a defined space and give them a location to do it and maybe mark the trails or groom it and promote it. So what I would recommend is just having staff work with these user groups to try and find a location for them where we can work jointly to define a trail system for them.
Alderman Burnett?
Yes, thank you, Alderman Weary. He Nisra is in my district. Alderman Stoyer, I believe, is personal friends with this person. They have not reached out to me with this. Alderman Stoyer mentioned it to me, so I would just urge kind of proceeding with public input from the get-go, because when I was campaigning for that area, my personal opinion is He Nisra is a very underutilized park in that it has so much potential. We're kind of split between preserving or enhancing the natural aspect and improving it for other recreational things, even the playground, which in my personal opinion I'd love to see there, but the neighbors are very much opposed to some of those sorts of things. So if you do meet with these folks and you do a tour of the the park for that purpose, if you could please include me, or perhaps maybe me and a member of your staff walk through there so I can get a pretty good feel for it, because I'd want to make sure the neighbors were informed along the process.
I can't remember offhand, I did not look into this before the meeting. Is there an active neighborhood association for that park?
There's not.
Okay.
No, there's not.
Yeah, we definitely can get you involved. The next step would be actually meet on site, walk the trail system
Sure.
with them, with one of our staff members, and we'll make sure to include you in on that. And we may find that it'll work, or we may find it won't. I do know that there are people out there using fat bikes already, and it wasn't this individual, she told me, and I did receive one complaint at Henistra that that was doing damage to the hiking trails, because when you get the ruts, it's hard to walk on it if it gets rutted and then it freezes that way.
How many
So,
feet of hiking trails are there?
we don't have a minimal footage or a mileage out there. There's some defined and a lot of undefined trails out there. So I just want you to be aware that we did receive one complaint on the fat bikes this winter. It was early on, it was the first snow, but that was the only complaint that we've ever received out there on this. So that's why we do want to be cognizant of the public out there, and just make sure that if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then we can work with them to find an alternate location.
All right, Alderman Johnson.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Second?
Motion to receive and place on file by Alderman Burnett.
Would that be appropriate, or
No,
perhaps
refer to staff, maybe?
refer to staff to work with all the
I would say refer the staff to work with the aldermen in the district, and also the user group to find an appropriate location within the park system.
Sure, that would be my motion.
Motion by Alderman Burnett, second by Alderman Johnson, to refer to staff to work with Alderman Stoyer and the Fat Tire Group,
Alderman Burnett
and Alderman Burnett. I think Alderman Stoyer posted it, but those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3, consideration with possible action on the approval of a $75,000 grant from the Fund for Lake Michigan for the construction of the shoreline improvement project at Bay Beach Amusement Park.
Okay, so as you may recall, the cost for this shoreline improvement project is at Bay Beach is $7 million. When the bonding was approved earlier this spring for $5 million, part of the funding plan was for the city to apply for $1 million worth of grants and secure $1 million worth of grants. So we recently were notified that the city just received a $75,000 grant from the Fund for Lake Michigan to go towards the construction of the entire project. So per city policy, we do need to get Park Committee and City Council approval to officially accept any grant. So that's why we're here today.
Did we anticipate getting that one? Was that kind of a...
That was one that they were supportive of it. Actually, the Fund for Lake Michigan funded, I can't remember the dollar amount, but they funded the part of the engineering study initially. So this is kind of the second round. So they're excited to see it where it's at, and the fact
We knew the amount when we applied? That's what we wanted, or?
that's what we would have liked to have applied for more, but we applied for $75,000 based on what they told us their program could really allow.
Take it.
Well, and a lot of times these grants come with expectations,
Mhm.
which I presume is why council needs to approve them, but are there any expectations, I guess, beyond what?
A lot of times these
Okay.
grants, the reason that we do require the approvals is just to make sure that the council approves the project, but more importantly, a lot of times these grants are tied into matching funds, so it's kind of securing the matching funds as part of that. Now, in this case, we have the matching funds, which is the $5 million in bonding for this project. So this grant doesn't require matching funds as part of this, so we didn't need it for this one, but we would have had it had that been a stipulation. So there really are no stipulations to this other than a timeline that we build the project within X number of periods or X number of years, because the grant expires at that point. and then just make sure that it goes towards the construction of that particular project. Those are the only stipulations, for the most part.
Alderman Burnett?
Yes, thank you. Sure. Weary, one thing I'd recommend to Dan, if you could, include something in the agenda pack that spells out the details, because I didn't have anything in here, just so we know to get to Alderman Johnson's point, like what are we agreeing, what is it basically? A little more than just an agenda line. Prior to council.
I'll talk to finance to see how they want me to handle this, but we do have a grant contract for any grant that we accept, which spells out all the terms of the agreement.
Sure.
We typically in the past have not provided that to the park committee when we seek approval, because a lot of that is, just kind of the fine lines of really the ins and outs of what of the grant program and what you're committing to. I can do that from now on if that's something you want to see for any grant, but that would really be about the only thing that I would have.
Otherwise, it's going to raise the question from here on out, what's expected of the city to be matching this, in this case not, but it would just be helpful.
We can look at usually we spell out, when there's certain conditions like that, we usually spell that out in the agenda or in our discussion. If you want, I can just give you a hard copy of the grant contract for you to look at ahead of time. Otherwise, I can look at seeing if we can attach it to the agenda for the council.
That's what I recommend.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve with the condition that the Parks Department includes the additional information for the council for consideration.
Second?
Motion by Alderman Burnett, second by Alderman Johnson. You have the motion, Dan?
Yes.
Okay. The discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 4, consideration with possible action on accepting a $50,000 Wisconsin Coastal Management Program grant for the East River Trail engineering from Baird Street to Irwin.
Okay, so this past summer, staff applied for a Wisconsin Coastal Management Grant for $50,000, which would go towards hiring an engineering consultant to complete the conceptual design and engineering documents for the East River Trail for a one-block section along Main Street that will run from Baird Street to Irwin Avenue. So the anticipated cost for the engineering is $50,000. A match was not required for this grant. And previously, this grant program did fund also an engineering study in 2012 for this section of trail, which looked at the feasibility of building the trail along this stretch. So this one block section is on the far end of the 1 mile proposed section of the trail, and it's the most visible section along the trail. It's from Baird to Irwin, and that property used to be lined with commercial. The city purchased those properties and the buildings were removed, and it's a very visible site from Main Street. So what we'd like to do is really create more of a showcase instead of just a trail that runs from point A to point B. Look at it more like an urban plaza with a trail running through it, and have some sculptural vertical elements that maybe come up, and it becomes more of a visual showcase as you're driving up and down Main Street, because it's literally fronting Main Street and fronting the river, instead of just creating a trail. So we did bring this to the park committee and discussed it in, I think it was June 30th, when we submitted the application, just so that you knew what the project was and what the vision of it was. So this was discussed back in June with the committee here. So as part of the engineering, they would do all of the conceptual design. They would do all of the engineering that goes into the bid documents, and then in addition, they would apply for all necessary permits for this. Now, in this case, it's not 100% approved at their level, at the state level. There's still one more committee it needs to go through, but they are very close to approving it. The biggest stipulation in this one is they would like to see the engineering completed by the end of June of this year. So that's why we're bringing it forward right now, because we do have somewhat of a time constraint to get the engineering done, because it's still not 100% approved on their end. they feel it's going to be approved. So if you do approve this, what I would recommend is just say contingent upon the state approving this project as a grant, something to that effect.
Joe?
Yeah, I mean, my concern prior to you saying that is that we approve something that they haven't approved. It's
Mhm.
kind of counterintuitive. So I'll make a motion to approve the $50,000 Wisconsin Coastal Management Program grant contingent on approval from the state entity and with the understanding the city not needing to provide matching funds. Would that be acceptable? That wouldn't scare them off or anything?
No, that would be fine. Just the
Needing
one.
the matching funds, the
Yeah.
contingent that we not, because I don't want to approve it and then be told, hey, you have to have a matching fund. And we didn't.
Yeah, you can do that if you'd like. Yeah, that's fine. There are no matching funds required as part of this. We have not quoted out the engineering yet. We feel that it's going to come within that ballpark range. If it does come slightly over, we will come to you with a suggestion of where we can get that extra money from for the engineering, or we might have to phase it in. So the money isn't contingent, or the grant isn't contingent on it, but in case it goes over, we do have a little bit of extra funding on our end that if the engineering comes slightly over, I may request that that gets put
Sure.
towards this project, but it's not a requirement of the grant.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's
So-
not that I'm opposed to matching funds, because sometimes that's good public policy, but in this situation, with approving it based on contingencies, which I'm not 100% easy with, that makes me feel better about.
Yeah, well, what you're doing is accepting the grant. So you're not hiring the consultant as part of this. So the consultant will be brought forward at a future park committee. Hopefully it will come within that 50,000. If it doesn't, we will bring a proposal forward where that additional funding could come from.
Second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Those in favor?
I guess, can you just verify what the motion was?
Motion is to approve the $50,000 grant contingent on the approval from the state and contingent upon the city not requiring to provide matching funds.
Okay.
I think we voted.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Number 5. This one I added late, so that's why it wasn't on the original agenda. Consideration with possible action on the city's role in assisting fundraising efforts by a private group for a public amenity. I'm just going to read off my motion. I think it's a pretty easy one. I just want to refer it to staff to work on the policy. The motion is to refer to staff to develop a policy for utilizing the city website to help promote fundraising for city park projects.
Second.
And the reason would be, like to rant a little bit again. When Colburn, we were fundraising, we were told, yeah, you can put it on the city website and it gets nixed somewhere upstream. So we can approve it all we want, but someone else controls the website. So it never got put there. So people would ask, well, how can you have fundraising for the pool? Well, what's going on? Well, can't we see the plans? Can't we click on there? And it's beautiful what you're doing with Bay Beach. I think that's wonderful. You got designs, you got a nice write-up, you can click here to donate, and it tells you all about it. I think everybody should have that option. It'd be nice to go on there and see, here's all the projects that are going on, and here's the groups that are fundraising for them. And then there should be a policy in place that whoever it is, you get to be on there, and it doesn't get nixed by someone who doesn't like the project. So that's the reason for it, long story short.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing, you think of like the 9/11 memorial. I mean, the committee is authorized
Yeah,
fundraising to occur.
yep.
I mean, there's other projects. I mean, there's been Pippin's been there in the past. What's the other one that's, I'm trying to think of another one that's going on right now.
Wireless
No,
teacher?
Pickleball right now, they're fundraising
Yeah,
for pickleball.
so if somebody has a site or a link, you can say, here's,
Yeah.
boom, boom. People can, well, let's visit, wow, hey, that's interesting, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it takes it out of the hands of
Yeah.
other entities.
Yeah, I guess just to kind of, speak to that proposed motion, Yeah, we can create a policy of how the city website can help to enhance fundraising abilities. We will have, in that policy, we can talk about what would be posted on the city's website versus a link to somebody else's website. Because that's one of the things that we do have to be cognizant of is, in the Bay Beach project, what's being done is the city is the entity that's funding, or that's doing the fundraising. So the city created the website link and the website itself. But if the private entity is creating the website, we just have to have some policy on how that all works together and how the city website ties into what they develop for private fundraising. For a public
Even if it's just,
facility.
contact this person to donate, or
Yeah.
here's where they can be mailed, or,
Yeah.
Or an easy pop-up window. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand that I'm now leaving the City
Yep.
of Green Bay
That's
website.
nice.
Blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah.
any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed, motion carried. Informational, director's report on updates and recent activities, Parks, Rec, and Forestry.
All right, so as you can imagine, ice rink construction is still on hold along with Triangle Hill with the lack of snow, lack of cold weather. We really haven't been able to get either one up and running yet, but we're ready to go as soon as the weather cooperates.
Packers can't shift over their snowmaker.
That would be nice. Maybe someday we can look at getting our own
I guess that's
snowmaker out there.
You know what, share?
For Bay Beach Amusement Park, the Ferris wheel, that is well under construction. The pilings and the footings for it are pretty much completed, or they will be this week. The Ferris wheel is actually scheduled to arrive mid-February.
Yes.
So we will have several semi-fulls coming out there, and that'll be pretty impressive if you have a chance to get out there mid-February. City Hall elevators. So as you recall, it went out to bid last
Yeah.
year. It came in way over budget. So Public Works is now going to rebid that. They're changing the scope of work a little bit, changing the requirements, and they're hoping that it'll come in closer to our budget. I think bids will be back somewhere towards the end of January, early February is what we're looking at right now. Colburn Pool, the state is currently reviewing the pool plans as we speak. And hopefully they will get that approved fairly quickly. We're going to be looking at bidding out that project in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And what we are looking at tentatively is do portions of the renovations in the spring and other portions in the fall. But then still open this year and have it under operation. So I'll fill you in as that project progresses, and when the bids come in, we'll have to have more discussion on it with the budget on that. Playgrounds, purchasing department is currently quoting out the playground replacement at East River Van Beaver Park and Fort Howard Jefferson School. In the recreation division, there's a lot of leagues going on right now with adult basketball leagues, open gyms. The dance classes are going well. We will be offering 4 Lego building classes at the sanctuary in January and early February, so if you're into Legos, sign up for that.
Yeah, let me add one real quick. We kind of did this last minute, so I actually just started last night. And because of some of the ice rinks not being up, some of this hill not being up, as a trial basis, we opened up John Muir Shelter, and we're doing like an indoor playground program 3 days a week over the next 3 weeks. So limited hours, it's all on our website, put our press release, but just to try something different, try to get people out and engage them in the park still, and we're kind of trying it out on a trial basis. Maybe this is something, depending on how this weather continues over the next years, if we don't have a lack of ability to get ice rinks up right away, maybe we can offer some of these other components. People can come, have a warming shelter, still go sledding or,
Little hill there.
something else. So we're trying some stuff out. So just want to make you aware of that.
At the sanctuary, we did have a volunteer appreciation dinner earlier this week. I think everyone enjoyed that, had a good time, and enjoyed the meal. And then the registration for fall 2019 4K program is now open for enrollment. So hopefully that'll fill up, and we are actively promoting that now. So hopefully when the new building is done, we'll have 2 full classes out there. So that's all that I have.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Motion by Alderman Burnett, second by Alderman Johnson to receive and place on file. Discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next park committee meeting, well, ours is January 30th. I noticed INS is the week before on the 23rd.
I did speak to Jim Burnett on that
Okay.
issue, and Steve and Jim are both thinking that they're going to change theirs to the
Okay.
30th, which makes sense because
Yep.
that's the week before the city council.
All right.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Alderman Burnett.
Second, maybe?
All right, yeah, second, Alderman Johnson. Those in favor?
Second round.
Aye.
Motion carried. Capiche, look at that, 7 o'clock.